You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Thanks for joining me, Ryan. Pleasure.
Hey.
Ryan just had a big birthday.
I did.
You did? You turned 34 years old. Happy birthday again. Wish you. Happy birthday on YouTube or write a review of the show today and include Ryan if you want,
At the end of a demographic.
Yeah. This episode is dedicated to my good buddy Preston Christensen. He was a 16-year-old boy that I met at the Ronald McDonald House. I met him and his mom, and we became good friends. And I watched him go through chemo, and I watched him go through high and lows, and ultimately cancer beat him. And it's been really tough. And I just wanted to say, without getting emotional, that he meant a lot to me, and he made me a better person. And he affected a lot of people in a good way. And so this episode is dedicated to Preston. Also, if you want to follow us on the Instagram and Twitter, Ryan, how do they do that?
They go to @InsideOfYouPod on Twitter, @InsideOfYouPodcast on Facebook and Instagram.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Please leave a review. It really helps. Go on YouTube. You can watch clips as well and old episodes. You could also get really cool merch at the Inside of You online store. And you can get Sunspin merch, the band merch, at sunspin.com. You can also book me for Zooms, and I'm on the Cameo thing, all that. And most importantly, Patreon. Mm-hmm. Patreon is a wonderful, thank God for Patreon. All my patrons have really supported the podcast and given back in so many ways. And if you want to support the podcast, join Patreon, become a patron of mine. I'll message you right away. It's Patreon, patreon.com/inside of you. I really appreciate all your love and all your support. We'll read the top tier patrons at the end of the episode. Right now, this is a good buddy of mine, Steve Agee, stand-up comic, actor. He was in a band. He was in a punk band, but you know him from Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, which is blowing up, and he deserves all of it. He's such a great guy, and I just, when your friends get some success, that makes you happy. It really does, and I was always rooting for this guy. Just such a talented guy, a treat to be around, and when Peacemaker hit, I just was like, yes. It's so nice to see that.
Yeah.
Good things happen to good people. They do. So without further ado, let's just do it. I think you're going to really find this episode interesting. Even if you don't know Steve Agee, let me know what you think. Let's get inside of Steve Agee. It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience. You asked me about the Thing and Escape from New York posters in my room?
The Thing in particular, but yeah, I didn't even realize that was Escape from New York from the angle that I'm sitting.
Yeah, and you're wondering how I got it autographed. So I know Oliver Hudson, which Kurt raised him, Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
and he was on the podcast, and he made the mistake of saying, "Oh yeah," I go, "Do your friends ever ask for autographs?" He's like, "No." I go, "Really? They never ask you for Kurt's autograph or Goldie?" He's like, "No, they don't." I go, he goes, "Why? Do you want one?" I go, "Fuck yeah, if you're asking." And he goes, whatever you want.
How many things did you have him autograph?
I had him sign The Thing, Escape from New York. What's the Overboard with Goldie?
Overboard?
Yeah, it's somewhere. But it took a while. It took a while to get those. Like I had to harass Oliver for a while to get those. I felt kind of bad, but I was like, at the end of the day, I don't give a shit.
Do you have people sign your bobbleheads?
No, I don't have that. That would be that. If I got into that, it'd be starting to get weird.
Yeah.
Right. Rosenbaum's having him sign bobbleheads. And
yeah.
I already think it's people think it's a little weird that I get autographs.
I don't think it's weird. Did you already have the posters? Or did you buy them once you found out you could get them signed?
Those two, I found out that he would sign them. I spent $350 on each of them original posters. I wanted the original.
They look great.
Come on, it's Kurt Russell. You got fucking Kurt Russell up there. So anyway, I like it.
And now you have it, and
then what?
Well, you can get what's his name to sign them now?
John Carpenter.
John Carpenter.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? I've been trying to get him on the podcast. You know John?
No, but the guys in Tenacious D, John Kineski and John Spiker, who are the backing band for Tenacious D.
Yeah, I don't know them.
They tour with John Carpenter when he does his music.
Are you serious?
Have you seen that? That's amazing.
No.
He does all the hits.
Dun, 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 dun. The Halloween, Escape from New York. Boom, boom.
Escape from New York. Yep.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. So he just plays those two chords for an hour and a half. Boom, boom.
Yeah. And then the rest of the band just wails on.
Just wail.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Steve Agee. You know what I love? I've known you for a while.
Yeah.
How long have I known you?
Probably since I met James, probably over at Sean Gunn's Sunset Sunday.
So probably 12 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And talk about like someone who you've gone from, I'd say rock bottom or low. Low.
Sure.
You've been in low places in your life. And now, boom, people would say, oh, look, he's overnight success.
Number one show in the world.
Is it the number one show in the world?
It is, yeah.
Wait a minute. Peacemaker on HBO Max is the number one show in the world now.
TV show, yeah.
How does it feel?
It doesn't register. No. James posted like a deadline clip of that, and I was like, it doesn't feel like it's the number one show because I'm still hiding from COVID in my house, and anytime I go out, I'm wearing a mask, so it's not like anyone would recognize me. So it's like, okay, that's great. I mean, it's good. We'll hopefully get a second season. So
yeah,
I don't know how we wouldn't.
Do you want to get recognized? Are you looking forward? Be honest, because a lot of actors say, no, I don't. I like obscurity.
I like obscurity, but every now and then, if someone, like if you go into a Starbucks and you buy coffee, and the guy will write "dye beard" on your, there's a reference to Peacemaker. But if they, every now and then, it's like, oh, just because people are watching the show.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's crazy because you have like worked in this business for a long time. I mean, you've done stand up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a musician, which I've never seen you play.
Yeah.
What do you play? Bass?
Yeah.
Do you still play?
Sometimes I have all the stuff and I just tinker around in my office.
But you're pretty good though. You've been in bands.
I have been in bands.
Do you want to do it again?
I don't think so.
Why?
With bands, you have to rely on other people.
That's so LA. True, though.
I came to LA to be in a band. I went to the Musicians Institute to study theory.
Oh, so you're good.
I was good.
I think
I'm really rusty. My fingers are weak, and
my fingers are weak.
But yeah, I came to LA. I was playing in a band, and once I got here, I was like, Jesus, there's like a trillion bands in LA.
What was the band called?
The Grazers.
The Grazers.
Yeah.
Like, where did that come from?
I don't know. I don't remember whose idea it was. We made shirts that was like a bull with a ring in its nose, like grazing, like a cow.
And you'd play out a lot.
Our first gig ever was the Roxy or the Whiskey.
Were you nervous?
No, I think I was really cocky.
Really?
I was like, these songs are fucking great. Let's so when I was in college, my roommate would just stick around at parties with like a cover band with his friends who were also in school with us. And then just like in the movie, what's the movie where Tom Hanks manages a band? That Thing You Do?
The Thing You Do, yeah.
So much like that, where the drummer breaks his, Giovanni Ribisi breaks his wrist, and then what's his name takes over as drummer, and then the band takes off. So their bass player broke his arm, and Tim, my roommate, was like, "Hey man, you want to just come jam with us? We usually rehearse on Sunday." And I was like, "Sure." And I went, and we just started dicking around, and we just started writing songs, like quick, like punk, like 2-minute songs.
So you like punk? That was kind of like the band.
Kind of, yeah. Like Buzzcocks type stuff.
Sure.
And like in one day we wrote like 4 or 5 just really dumb, quick, but fun songs. And I was like, we should be playing. What are we doing? I was like,
that fast.
Because we had enough covers. And then I was like, we should be playing somewhere. And so I went back to the dorm and I got out the LA Weekly and I started just looking at clubs and calling clubs going,
Jesus,
leaving messages going, hey, my band would love to play at your club. And most of the places did not call back. The first guy that called back was a guy, I'll never forget his name, Mike Giangreco. He was like a promoter or a booker.
Right.
He called me back. He's like, can you play at the Whiskey in 3 weeks? I was like,
Sure.
Yeah. And then I called all the guys and I was like, well, we have a show at the Whiskey. And they were all like, what? And then it was like every day we started rehearsing.
You just rehearsed every day. You got really tight in 3 weeks.
More songs. Yeah.
And what was the response?
His thing was like, can you get people to come to the show? And I was
Right.
like,
Still to this day, I think
They
that's
do
the
pay
thing.
to
If
play.
you go in there, you have to bring X amount of people to see your show.
and we brought like every one of our friends and it was packed and the guy was like, yeah, I booked the Roxy too. You want to do so we were playing a bunch and it was
And you were getting a
awesome.
name at all?
Not really.
No, just playing and enjoying
Locally in Riverside, a bunch of people would come see us.
it. Were you
So
thinking this was going somewhere?
I was, yeah. I was like, this is it. I'm going to be a rock star. And then I moved to LA and I was like, I'm never going to be a rock star. Because you have to, it's not just you. It's like, you have to have it. Your singer, your guitar player, your drum, they all have to have, the motivation to get up. And these guys were all, Tim went on to be a pastor, our singer. The
Wow.
guitar player, Thomas, became a nurse. He lives in like Tennessee, I think. And Nate, I think, is a lawyer or drummer. Like they all had their own, this was for fun.
Right.
And
But you didn't think that way.
No, I was like, I don't know what else I'm going to do. I was an art major. I was like
How old are you at this point?
21.
And where'd you go to school?
Loma Linda University. It's in Riverside.
Riverside.
And I was like, this beats pretending to be a painter and lie my way through painting class trying to,
Right.
justify the critiques of my paintings, which were horrible. I just did abstract because I was like, I can lie my way through this.
Right. But you're a really good photographer. You've worked at that.
Yeah, but that wasn't until
That came way later.
in my 30s when
Right.
digital became a thing. I had no patience for film.
Yeah, and you weren't really acting till what, 2007 or something?
I had done some commercials in like late 90s, just a few. And
You were more of a behind the scenes guy.
yeah, I worked in post-production.
Like Kimmel, you worked on Kimmel.
That was 2003. From 90s till like 2003, I was working post-production on Real World, Road Rules, Osbourne's, Temptation Island,
Survivor?
Joe Millionaire, not
No,
Survivor,
Oh, you were
um,
earned it.
but tons of reality shows. That's how.
And
I
what
was
were you
making
just
money.
doing behind the scenes stuff, like editing and like assistant editing? And
Assistant story editing and logging videotapes. And
did you hate it or did you really like it?
no, I hated it, but it's it's one of those jobs, it's like the mob where it's like once you're in, it's like I'm sick of working on the Osbournes. I know a guy that works on Temptation Island. I'm going to go there. And-
Really? You could just hop, jump
Oh
ship?
yeah. Everyone does it. Yeah.
They just get tired of something and they move on to the next
Yeah.
reality show. But when did you say, because at that point in your life, you're not really playing music as much anymore, right?
Mm-mm.
And now you're working behind the scenes. Were
Yeah.
you thinking this is going to be my life? Working behind the scenes?
I still didn't know, man. I was at Groundlings too. I was taking classes at Groundlings in the mid and late 90s.
Just for fun?
No, I wanted to.
Be on SNL.
This was when the band stuff was dying. Like I came to LA in 95 and quickly the band just broke up and I was the only one. My girlfriend broke up with me and I was just living in LA by myself, didn't know anybody. And I started dating a girl who was taking classes at the Groundlings. This was like 96.
Right.
And I went to a show and I was like, what this is what I should be doing.
Who'd you see at the show? Do you remember anybody who made it big?
I think Mindy Sterling was in that show. Mindy, who is Frau Farbissina in the Austin Powers movies.
Right.
I think Mike Hitchcock, who you would know from like a bunch
I
of,
do know that name, yeah.
but
Not like
Waiting
Will
for
Ferrell,
Guffman.
anybody like that.
No, in fact, when I started taking classes, I remember one of my first classes, the teacher saying, "Oh yeah, like two of our two of our own have just gone over to SNL, and it was Will Ferrell and Anna Gasteyer, or Will Ferrell and Sherry
O'Terry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe all three of them.
So you had, I don't want to say delusions of grandeur, but like you think you're going to be a rock star. You're a bass player. You're like, I've got this. You got a confidence. You're cocky. You say you're cocky. And now you're in Groundlings. Are you having that same kind of cockiness that you're like, I'm going to fucking be on SNL or I'm going to do this?
Oh yeah. I feel like most people, there's two types of people that go to the Groundlings. Ones who are like convinced they're going to be on SNL. I want to go to SNL. That's it. You're not even thinking Mad TV. You're like, I'm going for SNL.
Yeah, now who wants to go Mad TV?
Or, I mean, at the time, sure, I would have loved to. Or people who are just trying to come out of their shells, or who are like bosses at an office and they need to be able to express themselves. So they want to just kind of do improv so they can think on their feet in company meetings and stuff. I was like, and I remember when I was like 18 or 19, I called the Groundlings office. This is from Riverside, because I knew they had a bunch of people on SNL who were from Groundlings or Second City. And I wasn't going to go to Chicago or Toronto. So I called the Groundlings Theater, just cold called them. Like, I was probably 19. And a woman answered, and she's like, Groundlings Theater. And I go, hey, how do I want to be in your theater. I want to be in your company. She's like, okay, well, you have to sign up for classes, and you start at the beginner level. And
I did that. I took it.
I did too. And she goes, and she's like, so there's 4 levels of classes. And I go, what? I go, how much are these? And she's like, like $250 for 6, something like that. And I go, oh, so you guys are a scam. I was like, oh, so you guys are scamming people out of their money. I go, no, thanks. I can figure this out on my own. And I just hung up. And it wasn't till like almost like 8 or 9 years later that I went and I was like, oh yeah, all these
they
people.
Had to do this. They all had to pay.
Yeah, Lorraine Newman went through class at the Groundlings, and like,
Jesus.
Well, she didn't go through. She was a founding member, but like,
right. You know, I just read something in Judd Apatow's book. He has a new book. You read the old one, right? Or, what was that called? Sick
in the Head.
Sick in the Head. Yeah, Sicker in the Head. So I got a preview, and I was reading the Will Ferrell interview, and he just like, he was at USC, and he was, he didn't really know what he said. I'm going to try comedy. 3 years at Groundlings, SNL.
Yeah.
For someone, he had no fear, because his dad was like, he's like, what, I don't know, I've never really done comedy. He's like, well, you know what? Most people, you'll probably fail at it, but so why not do it? Why not? You'll probably fail. You'll find something else to do.
Yeah.
So he figured, fuck it, and that was kind of his mentality.
Yeah.
But what were you doing? Were you thinking, I'm going to be somebody here?
So I never had a plan. All I knew was when I was about 9 years old, I got, for either Christmas or for my birthday, they're both fairly close, I got a transistor radio that had a mono earplug. And when my parents would make me go to bed at night, I would listen to KMET 94.7, which was the rock station in all of Southern California. They were syndicated.
Well, now it's 94.7. The Wave.
No, it used to be the shit.
Okay,
and
I still like it.
And Sunday nights they had Dr. Demento. And I would lay in bed listening to Dr. Demento as a 9 and 10-year-old kid. And it's how I was exposed to Carlin, to Weird Al, to Cheech and Chong, just every aspect of comedy, like from parody songs to stand-up to sketches. It was all there on Dr. Demento. And I wanted to be a comedian, and also I wanted to be an actor. And this was at like 10. I knew that at like 10 and 11. I just didn't know how to do it. I grew up in a family where there was nobody in the arts.
Nobody was funny.
Nobody. Everyone was a doctor or, in business or something. And I thought you had to be born into that world. And so I was like, I never made a plan. I just knew I wanted to do it. Like John Ritter was my idol.
Wow.
John Ritter and George Carlin. That was it. Those were the gold standards for me. And it wasn't until I got to LA and I was like, oh, can be in the Groundlings. I just have to go through classes and prove myself. And it was really the Groundlings in the late 90s where I was like, I think I can actually do what I wanted to do, you know.
It's so weird because knowing you, I don't think of you as someone back then who was just so cocky because you're such a humble dude. You're so quiet. You're just fun. You're smart. People like to be around you. I think that's why, you know, your friendship with James and all of us just kind of blossomed.
Yeah.
But I don't picture this guy who's just like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to be a comedian. I'm going to be a rock star. Like, you were a bit of a go-getter.
I did it very lazily. Like I was
Explain.
I wasn't actively going into these. I was like finding them. Like, you know, I went to high school, and then when I graduated, all my friends were going to college. I didn't want to go to college. My parents wanted me to. All my friends were there. So I was like, I guess I got to go to college. And all my friends were at this place, Loma Linda University, because they wanted to be doctors. It was primarily a place where you study, you know, pre-med.
Right.
And so I went wanting to be a marine biologist. I know I'm all over the place, dude. I figured, since I don't know how to become an actor or a comedian, I'll be a marine biologist, because I spent a lot of time, you know, we had a cabin on Catalina Island when I was a kid. And so we would boat back and forth. I spent a lot of time in the ocean, scuba diving, snorkeling. I was like, I could be a marine biologist. They don't have a program at Loma Linda, but I could go get all my biology prerequisites, and then I can transfer to like Long Beach State or something.
And you did that initially?
I was a biology major my first year of college, and I failed every single class hard.
Why?
Because it's biology, dude. They don't start. I was like, I wanted to swim with fish and like hold on to a dolphin's fin and get dragged through the water. That's what I thought marine biology was.
Just go to the aquarium, for God's sakes.
I didn't know that to do that shit, you have to start off on the cellular level of biology.
Oh, doesn't.
I feel like they should start you off on a larger level, like, this is a mammal. It breathes. It has milk. You know, this is a fish.
Right.
And then work your way down. As you get older in school, you can retain that kind of shit, and you figure, okay, I want to keep doing this. I want to learn the cellular stuff. Not like, here you go, 18-year-old, learn about mitochondria and
cilia.
Yeah, silly. I was just like, nope, I checked out. I would sit and look at the teacher talking and not retain one fucking word out of their mouth.
So what's going on?
I would sit and make jokes in my head. I had a teacher, his name was Jose. Everyone called him by his... I, in my head, kept calling him Hose B. And I was like, I couldn't let go of comedy. And I failed my first semester. And then my best friend Sam was at school there, and he was a photography major because they had an art department. He's like, dude, just be an art major. It's fucking easy. He's like, I've seen you doodle and and I was like, yeah, I'll be an art major. And so I just got an art degree.
Really? Was that easy?
It was super easy.
To get an art degree? Yeah.
The hardest part was I still had to do like basic classes, like an English class and
stuff. So you got by.
I got by. It should have been 4 years. I did it in like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I did 4.5 or something.
But while I was in college, that's when the band thing happened. It's when my mom gave me a clipping that she found in the local paper of like open mic night for stand-up comedy.
Mom?
My mom. She knew I loved comedy. She's like, you should do this.
And you did that?
And I did it. And
Wait a minute. So she gives you this little clipping.
Yeah.
And they said, no, 5 minutes. Is that what it was? Something like 5 minutes?
Yeah, something really cool, like 3 to 5 minutes. It was super easy.
It was super easy.
So I wrote up like 3 to 5 minutes, bullshitted my way through it. And I was like, this was great. It's an open mic. There's not a ton of people. So I would just do that once in a while. I still didn't put it together that like, oh, if you do this a bunch of times, you get the experience and you develop a voice and you write more material and you're a comedian. Like, I didn't put that together. I was just like, oh, that was fun.
I'll just do 3 to 5 minutes every couple months.
Yeah. And then my mom also sent me a clipping for auditions for a local, like the local theater company in Riverside was doing a Christmas Carol. And I went, my mom's like, you should audition for this. And I went, I was like, that was terrifying to me.
Auditioning for a real audition, actor audition.
Yeah, I had no experience. I just show up at this theater. Every stereotypical theater snob you can imagine was there. And it's like, you know, it's like local, like community theater people. You know? And I was given some sides. I don't even remember what I read for. And then the director called me that night. She's like, you were great. She goes, I don't want you to do that part. That part was, she's like, I want you to be Jacob Marley, who's like the first, he's like Scrooge's dead partner.
Yeah, it's a big part.
Yeah, that was my first acting gig. And I was like,
what year?
98 or 99.
And did you kill it? Did you love it? Did you feel
I loved it. I loved it.
You loved it. You loved going on stage every day. You loved interacting with the audience.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Who's that?
It's Siri. I don't know why she does this.
Siri, shut up.
Hey, Siri, shut up.
By the way, I did this
we didn't
once.
even say Siri, and she just started talking.
By the way, I once said, Alexa, was Hitler a good man? And Alexa said something in a kind of a roundabout way.
Depends on who you
ask. I mean, it was kind of like, really?
Yeah.
It was, but I'm sure it was a mistake. Inside of You is brought to you by Wondery. You know that show Life is Short with Justin Long?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I like about this guy is when he talks to people, he's interested. Kind of like me. You know what I mean? I'm interested in people. I'm interested in learning. So I think that, you know, if you listen to him, you'll realize that he's a sincere person, and I enjoy the show. Look, how do we make the most of our time here on Earth? How do we bring meaning to our life's work? And what is the best emoji to use when texting? These are important questions asked on the weekly interview podcast, Life is Short, with Justin Long. In each episode, actor Justin Long chats with celebrities, actors, musicians, artists, and more about how they get the most out of life. In recent episodes, hear his conversations with Severance actor Adam Scott, comedian Nicole Byer, and prolific author Mark Epstein. You'll get the inside scoop on their careers and, of course, learn their favorite emojis, too. Listen to Life is Short with Justin Long on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or you can listen 1 week early and ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app. Inside of You is brought to you by Nissan. The future will be great, but today is just as incredible. Meet Nissan's most advanced lineup. If you can't get enough adrenaline, there's the all-new 400 HP Nissan Z. Or for your off-road adventures, check out the all-terrain Nissan Frontier. If you're more of a spontaneous road trip type person, hop in the Nissan Pathfinder. And for something more electric, there's the stylish Nissan Ariya. So let's enjoy the ride. 2023 Ariya and Z not yet available for purchase. Expected availability this spring for 2023 Z and this fall for 2023 Ariya. All right, so you're doing this. You do the play. You like it.
Yeah.
You're done with the band at this point.
No, I'm still doing the band.
You're still doing the band.
Went off.
Now you're
college.
acting and you're starting to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So you're doing all these things and you're having a good time, but you're not making a lot of money.
No, it's it's mostly band stuff. And when I first come to LA, I'm working at Starbucks, and then I start taking classes at the Groundlings. That all the music stuff stopped, and I had a teacher, Melanie Graham, who was in the main company at the Groundlings. Amazing woman. She was like, you don't want to be working at Starbucks, do you? And I was like, no, fucking of course not. But I got bills to pay. She's like, she was a writer on The Real World.
Right.
A story editor. And she's like, I can get you a job at Buena Murray. It'll be like watching videotapes and entering info. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And that's what got me into reality TV. And I would every now and then through the Groundlings get an audition for like a commercial.
Were you pretty happy at this point? Were you?
Yeah.
You were. It was a good part of your life.
I met people at the Groundlings that I'm still super incredibly tight with. People I've worked with now who are now like huge stars and like we were just kids in our 20s.
Who are those people?
Like Maya Rudolph and I were in.
Oh, you're close with Maya Rudolph.
Yeah, Maya and I were in classes. I have a photo I'll show you of me and Maya sitting on stage at the Groundlings, and we look like 15-year-olds. We look like babies.
Wow.
And yeah, Will Forte was there when I was there.
And you went through the whole program.
I did all the classes. Now there's a basic class and it's just improv.
That's what I took.
Then there's an intermediate class, which is just improv. Then there's a writer's lab, which they teach you how to write sketches. And the writer's lab, at I think 6 to 12 weeks of doing it, you put on a show of the sketches you've written. And
you did that.
Did that. Great. Loved it. Mike McDonald was my teacher.
Came from somewhere back in a
different.
ago.
I should say Michael McDonald. He was on Mad TV. He was my teacher, and then Mindy Sterling was my advanced teacher.
Ah.
And then for advanced, you do improv and sketch comedy. You write for 6 weeks, do a show. Write for 6 more weeks, do a show. And the Groundlings main company members have to come and watch both your shows, and then they vote. Like, yeah, let's move them up to the Sunday company where you do shows every Sunday. And
Okay.
I did not make it into the Sunday company.
You
I
didn't.
was crushed.
Because you were in with all these people. They liked you. You're friends with them all. You're working hard.
I was working at the theater also at this point. I was working in the box office. I was videotaping shows. That theater was my life for like 4 years.
Do you know who rejected you?
No, but let me tell you this. I don't know if this is how it happened, but so they have to vote on you. The only company members that can vote are ones that have seen both the advanced shows. The night of our second show, there was a bomb threat on Melrose Avenue, and we had to cancel the show and reschedule it for the next night. Most of the company members couldn't come the next night. So I think only like 2 or 3 people voted on our shows. And I think there were people that were not thrilled with the fact that I was a student, but already hanging out with everybody backstage and like too familiar. That's what I think.
And you were crushed.
Crushed. I had no other plans. I was like.
So what did you do from there? I mean, what can you do at that point?
I just kept working in reality TV.
But Groundlings that was over?
It was done. I mean,
couldn't you go back and try again?
No.
What?
It was like, you've done the whole program. There's no need for you to do it again, Steve. Sorry, good luck.
Because you asked.
Yeah, I was just crushed.
Ugh.
Mindy, who had to call me to tell me, I was the last person in the class that she called because she was dreading it, called me crying. She knew how fucking much it meant to me. And
did you cry?
Oh, yeah. I had to get off the phone really quick because I didn't want her to hear me cry.
Okay, great.
I was like,
thanks so much.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thanks, Mindy. Hung up, and I was like sobbing. I was like, what do I... And the next day I woke up and I was like, I can't go to the Groundlings to hang out or watch shows. What the fuck do I do? So I did show, like my class, we did shows like on Theater Row on Santa Monica Boulevard, like Maya and myself. And
so you'd still do shows?
Yeah, but just not at the Groundlings. But I think they really liked me there. And so every now and then they would do these benefit shows at the Groundlings called The Trash Show. And it was a show they'd do like once a year. All the proceeds would go to repairs on the theater and stuff like that. And the trash show, it's called Take Out the Trash, I think, is nothing but politically incorrect sketch comedy. The worst, most horror. If you can imagine it, it's 10 times worse than what you can imagine.
Like it wouldn't go today. It wouldn't fly today.
I think they still do them. It probably
offends a lot of people.
It would offend a lot of people. And most of the people that went to these shows were just students. Like, because they would find out they're doing a trash show, tickets are going on sale tomorrow. They'd sell out in like 2 minutes. So it was mostly students.
Right.
And they would let me come do those shows. So Maya and I would write a lot of fucked up sketches for those shows.
Right.
And that kind of kept me going a little bit.
Right. But you probably, because I know you and I have talked about this. You take a sip of your coffee. For
Okay,
God's sake.
thank you.
But I know like we both, we've had a little depression in our lives.
Sure.
Anxiety in our lives. When did the first depression or anxiety start hitting you?
High school.
High school, you started dealing with that.
Yeah, I got sent to military school. I got kicked out of high school, and my parents didn't know what to do with me or to me. I had a little taste for the booze in high school. I loved when I was a freshman. 2 seniors took me out and got me drunk, and it changed my life. It made me not shy. I would talk to girls. I would kiss girls. I was like, alcohol is amazing. And I really took to booze, and like I became
An alcoholic.
I don't want to say alcoholic because I literally stopped when I was like 18 or 19. It was like, I think I'm done. And I never had an urge.
Really?
I just knew that when I was a teenager and shy and terrified of talking to people, that got me through it. But I really leaned heavily on it. And so my parents didn't know what to do with me. So they sent me to military school.
Ooh.
The school where they filmed Taps, Valley Forge Military Academy, Wayne, Pennsylvania. And
Did they straighten you up? Straighten you out?
In high school I favored the booze. When I went to military school, you're subject to daily inspections because it's like the military.
Right.
And so it became a lot easier to hide drugs in your...
Oh, so you started doing drugs in military school.
Yeah, mostly like weed and like mushrooms.
Right.
And stuff
you weren't
like
powdering your nose or anything.
No.
Right.
I tried all that stuff, but I didn't like it. I liked hallucinogenics and weed. I loved weed and, hash. But I remember specifically one day in military school, I was walking down the hallway in the dorm. 2 of my friends were wrestling. They were play wrestling. And one of the guys lifted up the other one off his feet, and they both fell backwards. And one of the guys hit his head on the corner of a cinder block doorway and split his head wide open. And I can still see it to this day in my head. Like, barracks and stuff in the military, it's all that lime green. So I just remember the stark contrast of bright red blood coming out of this guy's head onto a lime green floor. Like, it is burned into my mind. And later that night, I was at dinner and I was eating my food, and all of a sudden I couldn't swallow. Like, and that's not a memory reflex. That's like an involuntary, like, it's like breathing. You shouldn't have to think.
Right, you don't think about swallowing.
And all of a sudden, I couldn't swallow. And I was trying to make myself swallow, and I couldn't. I was having what I years later, figured out was a panic attack. That's how it manifested.
And you think it was because that triggered it, seeing all the blood and everything? That's what triggered it?
I think that at 17 years old was the first time I realized, oh, I'm going to die someday. And it doesn't matter if I'm 80, which I hope that's, much later. I hope I die when I'm much later. But I could die when I'm 17. And it really kicked everything off for me as far as my big problem has always been panic and anxiety disorder.
Right.
Mixed with some depression.
And it started there.
17, yeah.
And so it worked its way through. So did you end up getting go to therapy and get on anything, or you fought through it?
Not until I was 30. I didn't start therapy until I was 30. I thought I was losing my mind my whole teenage and college
I understand
life.
that.
I didn't know that this was common. My girlfriends didn't know that I had this shit going on, panic attacks, because I was really good at hiding it. I once had a panic attack, this was in college, from a 30-minute flight from Sacramento to Burbank with my girlfriend from her parents' house. And I climbed over the seats as we were taking off. I was freaking out so bad. I thought I was having a heart attack. Climbed over the seats. My girlfriend's like, what are you doing? I was like, I think I'm going to shit my pants. I didn't have to take a shit.
Did the whole plane hear this?
Yeah, but when you're having a panic attack, you don't
You don't care about anything.
And I just made a beeline right to the bathroom, and I stayed in the bathroom the entire flight until I felt us touch down. And the flight attendants were like, "Hey, sir," I was like, "I cannot come out." And they can't make
Did you say you're having an anxiety attack?
No, because I didn't know it was an anxiety
You didn't
attack.
know it was
I thought I was dying. And this was happening all the time.
And you're 30 years old and still not understanding what's going on.
At that point, I was about 24. But this was going on. And then I remember talking to a friend. You know, I'd been at House of Pies. This is like when I was like 29 or 30. And
what's House of Pies?
It's that restaurant on
Vermont. Yeah.
You know, it's like a Denny's.
Right.
And I was with some friends having dinner, and I had a panic attack. And I immediately and I never explained it to my friends. I would just get up and leave, and they'd be like, where are you going? And I would just bolt. And later I'd be like, I forgot something in my car. You know, I would just make up an excuse.
I've done that.
And it was always believable. And the next day I was at a friend's house, and I go, last night, I was in this fucking restaurant. I thought I was dying. Like my heart was racing, and I started sweating. And as soon as I left the restaurant, it stopped. And he goes, yeah, idiot, that's a panic attack. And I go, what? He goes, that's a panic attack. He goes, I get them all the time. I was like, what? And then once I started talking about it with him, I immediately felt a lot better. And I started asking all my friends, I was like, do you get panic attacks? Yeah.
And many of them had one.
Yes.
That does feel good when you know that you're not alone. That's a huge thing. Oh my
God. I hate that any of my friends have to deal with it.
Yep. I called you about my anxiety.
But I also love that I'm not alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was about in my 30s, and I think I was 29 or 30 when I got booted out of Groundlings, and my girlfriend at the time was like, you got to go see a therapist. And I was like, why? I have the best life. I go, I have great family.
I'm awesome.
My parents are great. I go, it's just this Groundling thing. She's like, go. She's like, I'm sick of listening to you complain about this. I did it to humor. I went to a therapist. I made an appointment. I sit down in the chair. I'm thinking, this is going to be bullshit. She comes in. She's like, hey, Steve, I'm Dr. So-and-so. And I'm like, hey. And she's like, how do you feel about all this? I was like, I think it's pretty pointless. I go, everything seems great, you know, other than, you know, Groundlings kicking me out. And she goes, what's your family like? I immediately just started bawling. Like,
what?
It literally, I was just like, and the hour went by so fast. I was like, can we do another hour? Can we just keep talking? She's like, no, it doesn't work that way. Just come back next week.
Why did you get so emotional about your family?
I don't remember, but it was like just somebody asking me about myself, and, you know, me being forced to talk about shit, like, was just opening a floodgate. And I saw this therapist for years and years and years.
Really helped you.
Helped me tremendously. Didn't help with the panic attacks. I mean, a little bit. She gave me like breathing exercises and stuff, but it was after I quit reality TV, and I quit, like, I had a panic attack when I was working on Joe Millionaire, and I just walked out of the office, never went back. They were calling me. They're like, hey, are you coming back? And I just wouldn't answer the phone. I didn't leave my house. I was living with like 3 people in a house. Didn't walk out my door for like months. I was too afraid I would have panic attacks every time I left. And one night I went to a 7-Eleven at 3 a.m. because if I had to leave to get food or money, I would do it in the middle of the night because I didn't want to be around crowds. And I remember going to a 7-Eleven just to get something to eat. And I drove up into the parking lot, and I look in, and there's one person in there shopping. And I couldn't get out of my car until they left the building.
Are you serious?
Then I was like, oh, I have a huge fucking problem. And I started crying. I called Sarah Silverman, who I had met, you know, a few years earlier. And she's like, dude, this is completely normal? She goes,
No, it's not.
no, she goes, millions of people suffer from this.
This is normal.
No,
Everybody waits for the last guy to leave the 7-Eleven. Once he's out, it's good. That's what we all experience that. No, but I understand what you're saying.
She goes, you're having a panic attack. She's like, that's normal. She goes, you need medication. She's like, do you see a therapist? I go, yeah. She's like, you need medication. And she gave me the name of her doctor and took everything I had to drive in the middle of the day to an office in Century City and sit in there and talk to this woman. She prescribed me Lexapro, and I started taking Lexapro.
And
I
it
was
helped?
a little tired for a few days, but within 2 weeks, I was like back going out, doing stand-up.
Changed your life.
Changed my life. This was like 2002 or 2003.
Are you still on Lexapro?
Yeah.
Stayed on it since then.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's working.
So you really don't get depressed all that much. I mean, we all get depressed.
I get normal depressed. Like, I'll get sad.
But she didn't give you anything for the anxiety. She gave you things for the depression.
Lexapro is...
It's both?
It's for anxiety disorder.
It is.
And depression.
Okay, I've never taken that one.
Yeah, it's good.
Wow. Inside of You is brought to you by Shopify. As you know, I have a Shopify account, the Inside of You online store. It's fantastic. I don't know what I would do without these guys. It's so easy to check out analytics, how you're doing, how different products are doing. They map it out so easily for you. And it helps me know, oh, wow, I only have 2 of these left in inventory. Oh, I have Shopify. I don't know what I would do without them. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business. So upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. Scaling your business is a journey of endless possibility. Believe me, this podcast started selling, a couple of t-shirts, maybe a mug, and now it's a weekly job for me to go on there and go, wow, I've got all these people coming here, because Shopify truly makes it easier. I love how Shopify has the tools and resources that make it easy for any business to succeed from down the street to around the globe. And like mine, Shopify powers millions of businesses from first sale to full scale.
Reach customers online and across social networks with an ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more.
Gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting of conversion rates, profit margins, and beyond.
More than a store, Shopify grows with you.
This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Just go to shopify.com/inside, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/inside right now. Shopify.com/inside. Inside of You is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp online therapy. I can't tell you how many emails or texts or messages I get from people telling me that BetterHelp is helping them. And I really love that. I love talking about something that works, that helps people, that is a sponsor on the podcast where we talk about mental health. It's very important. Ryan's still with BetterHelp.
I'm still with BetterHelp, and it's still helping.
It's still helping. I like hearing that. People don't always realize that physical symptoms like headaches, teeth grinding, even digestive issues can be indicators of stress. And let's not forget about doom scrolling, sleeping too little, sleeping too much, undereating, overeating. Stress shows up in all kinds of ways. And in a world that's telling you to do more, sleep less, and grind all the time, here's your reminder to take care of yourself, to do less, and maybe try some therapy. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. Ryan, you like to see people.
I do. I think it helps.
I do too. I like to see the person I'm talking to, but that's just me. If you don't feel like seeing a face, you don't have to. You could also text. You could do whatever you want. Yep. It's so much more affordable than in-person therapy. Trust me on that one. Going to in-person therapy is so expensive. I'd say some cases it's triple, quadruple the cost of BetterHelp by far. You can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Give it a try and see if online therapy can help lower your stress. I believe it really can, truly. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and inside of you listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/inside. That's BetterHelp.com/inside. Give therapy a shot. BetterHelp Online Therapy. Inside of You is brought to you by Geico. Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance? Well, of course you would. After all, who doesn't love a great deal, right? And when it comes to great rates on insurance for all the things in your life, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners, condo, or renters coverage. You could save even more with a special discount when you bundle your coverages. Plus, add the easy-to-use Geico mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance, and more. And choosing to switch to Geico becomes an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save with great rates and discounts. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com to get a rate quote or contact your local agent and get started seeing how much you could save. So Sarah Silverman got you.
Saved my life.
Saved your life. You also did a show with her.
Career-wise and emotionally.
Career-wise, why did Sarah Silverman save your career?
After I had quit reality TV, I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go back to working in a coffee shop. Sarah and I had gotten on medication. Sarah called me one day and said, Jimmy, she was dating Jimmy Kimmel at the time. She's like, Jimmy's doing a talk show now. She goes, they don't even have a name for this position, but they need someone to do research, to just watch TV and find funny clips for him to make fun of in the monologue. I was like, I'll take that. I'll sit in an office and watch TV for 10 hours a day. So I did that. That was kind of miserable just because you're watching The View, you're watching the 700 Club.
TV you wouldn't watch if...
Yes, you're looking for funny things to make fun of, Home Shopping Network, stuff like that.
Right.
That's what I was doing, and it was driving me crazy. I couldn't watch TV when I got home at night because I just didn't want to. But I stuck around because I wanted to be a writer. I was like, I think I can be a writer. And I let Jimmy know, and as soon as there was an opening, like, he made me a writer. Like, he was the best.
Wow. He seems like a good guy.
I don't think we had a very similar sense of humor. I think I was probably on my way to being fired. I would pitch a lot of stuff that
dark.
Yeah, or just like really out there, just like weird sketch ideas and stuff. And he's like, no. And I think I was on my way to being fired. But then Sarah got
the Sarah Silverman Program.
Yeah, her pilot for Comedy Central. She wrote a part for me. That happened, and I quit Jimmy's show. All on good terms. I still love Jimmy. He's the best. And
how long did you do the Sarah Silverman Program for?
From like 2007. I think we shot the pilot in 2006. We got picked up early 2007, I think, and we shot until like 2010.
Wow, so it was a pretty good run.
Like 3 seasons, yeah.
And you got paid a lot of money.
No. Comedy Central,
they don't pay anything.
The worst as far as money.
They don't pay anything.
Yeah. But I was able to make a living, and make a show with all my friends. I was friends with all those people through Sarah already, and that's my first real acting job. And I was like, oh, this is easy.
Really?
You just do a show with your friends? Yeah, okay.
I mean, that's the life, isn't it?
Then when it ended, it's like, I guess I'm a character actor and I'll do an occasional, episode of New Girl and stuff.
Which you did.
Which I did, and I did it for years and years. I mean, it's...
How much of a struggle is that, being a character actor, kind of... Because you were sort of like, for a while, dependent on your next job. Like you were...
Yeah.
It wasn't like you were sitting there with riches going, I don't have to worry for 3 years. You were thinking like, I can get by for another 2 months.
Yes. And it was... I did all right at it as a character actor because a lot of those jobs turned into recurring parts. Like I had a recurring part on New Girl, You're the Worst, Superstore, Speech. There was a point not too long ago where I was recurring on like 4 or 5 different shows. So I'd do 3 episodes of Superstore, 3 episodes of New Girl, a couple episodes of Year of the War. So it was pretty good for a couple years, you know?
Right. I mean, were you at this point happy? Would you say?
Yeah.
You were?
Yeah.
Because you hit a lull after that, right?
Yeah, peaks and valleys. There would be times where it was like, I'm glad I'm living in an apartment with low rent because this is getting a little dicey.
Right.
And then you do like 10 episodes of, 3 different shows and you'd be like, oh, I guess I'm good for the rest of this year.
And did you have an agent who stuck with you for all these years? Or did you kind of bounce around?
I have a manager that I've been with for quite a while, and she's been great. And she's left different places that she's been with, and I've always gone with her, and I'm still with her, and she's great.
You did, what was it, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. James
Yeah.
cast you in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So
we did.
We did. I was in that too.
Yeah, we were in.
We were in that together. We were also in the movie Hit and Run together.
Yeah,
Dax's movie.
no scenes together though.
No scenes together. So
Dax
we've done
puts me in like everything, and it's always like
the mechanic. Or
you're the idiot who comes in and says one dumb thing, and as he drives away in his hot rod.
Right.
You know?
But there you go.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So what was that like? Did you have to audition for Guardians, or did James just say, "Hey, you want to play this character"?
No, he was just like, it's a small part. You're a Ravager. James likes to work with his friends, as you know.
Yeah.
He may not always cast his friends as like big, huge parts, but like he'll fill a movie with like his friends in smaller parts here and there, and it's.
I just remember being on set of Guardians 2, and you were doing some scene, and he was like, Agee, just do it like this. Say it like this. And you're screaming and you're yelling, and he's just adding, he's trying to find funny stuff that you can do, extra things that you can do to just.
I think when we were doing Guardians 2, when dailies would go out to like Kevin Feige and them, I don't even know if that's how that would work, but they would see footage and
they liked you.
They were like, this guy's really funny. So I was supposed to die in that movie. The scene at the end where Michael Rooker kills everybody with his arrow.
Yeah.
And so we did that much later. Like I shot most of my stuff when we did the stuff with you. And then I came back like 3 months later to shoot just my death scene. And we shot it. And then James was like, I want to shoot something else just to have footage. So in case we want to, you're still alive. And so we just shoot a really quick scene of me on the ground crying that I've been stabbed and that my beer has exploded. And that was it, just to have, in case he wanted to use me again.
Doesn't that feel good though?
Feels great.
Feels great, right?
He was going to do it in a post-credits scene, how he had like 3 or 4 scenes during the credits. But he's just like, that didn't make sense, man.
Yeah, so he used my scene in the end credits.
Yeah.
Now, from there, he cast you in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Now, you have a part. You play the same character that you do in Peacemaker, right? Is it the same character? Economist?
John Economos, yeah.
John Economist. Who comes up with the name Economist?
Well, John Ostrander came out. He's an actual comic book character.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, boy, I should know that. People are probably screaming at me right now.
No, John Ostrander came to set to visit, and James introduced me. He's like, Steve, this is John Ostrander. He created the Suicide Squad. And I was like, oh my God, it's great to meet you. And James is like, Steve's playing. Is that my watch?
No,
again?
it's not your watch.
Okay.
It's my cuckoo clock.
I got so scared.
No,
Embarrassed.
it's all right. No, don't be embarrassed. I should be embarrassed.
He goes, Steve's doing motion capture for King Shark, and he's doing John Economos. And he looks at me, he's like, oh, you look like the real John Economos. And James and I were both like, what? And he goes, oh, yeah. He's like, I based the comic character off a friend of mine. I was like, oh. So there was a real guy named John Economos.
Do you think that helped you in him casting you in Peacemaker?
Yeah, maybe.
Because the part, John Economos is not a big part in Suicide Squad.
No, it's very
it's funny.
One-dimensional.
You got kind of a one line here, one line there.
Yeah.
And, you're doing that, and you're also standing in for King Shark.
Yeah.
Now, how hard is it to stand? First of all, being a stand-in alone, I see how many hours they're on their feet. How exhausting is it to be a stand-in for King Shark?
It technically wasn't stand-in. It was motion capture. They had a stand-in that would, when they were lighting and stuff, there was a guy, I wish I could remember his name. He was great. He would stand, big dude who would stand there. But I was just like, I was there for reference. So the actors had somebody to look at and I could do, scenes with them. And it was actually a blast. I hope to God they use King Shark. If there's not another Suicide
Peacemaker?
Squad, that would be amazing. But if there's not another Suicide Squad movie, the characters, at least now in the DC world, and
Were you being considered to voice King Shark at first in the beginning?
No, it was when James asked me about it.
Because I read for it many times.
James was like, I want you to do what Sean does for Rocket. Sean's
right.
motion capture. He's like, I want you to do that for King Shark. He's like, I need somebody funny. He's like, I need someone big, and I'm like James's tallest friend, so it just made sense. It was never brought up, me doing the voice. We never even talked about it. In fact, we did the table read, and at the table read, we'd never discussed what his voice was. And it wasn't until we were starting, and I'm sitting there with like Idris on one side and Margot Robbie on the other, and I was like super nervous. And as my first line is coming up with, I was like, I don't know what this fucking guy sounds like. And so I did it like I did it like ominous and deep and scary, and
which works
because he's a big shark,
right?
And so then once we started rehearsals, James was like, "That's not working." He's just a big, goofy. English isn't his first language. He's kind of slow. And then at one point he goes. He's like, think Stallone. He's like a slower down version of Stallone. Like Stallone, but trying to find the words. And I was like, so me do this the whole time. So I was doing my impression of Stallone the whole time. He didn't know they were going to use Stallone, but I knew. I was like, especially towards the end, Peter Safran was like, just so you know, they're reaching out to people to, audition for the voice. I was like, yeah, I figured. I go, yeah. But in my head, I was like, why don't they offer it to Stallone?
Because it's $1 million role. That's probably what they were considering. Is like, this is expensive. But it's also DC. And it's
also James Gunn, and he knocked it out of the park with Guardians. So I think DC is like,
exactly.
We got to trust this guy. So I was never shocked that it was Stallone. I met him when we did that stuff on Guardians, but there's no way he would remember me. But I met him at the premiere for Suicide Squad, and I just fucking walked right up to him. I'm like, Sly, I go, I'm Steve. I did all the motion capture for King Shark. He's like, oh my God.
How you doing?
That must have been rough, all that running around. He's like, hey, you did a great job. I posed for some photos with him, and I was like, that was awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So when did you get the call from James saying, I want you to be this character, John Economos. I want you to bring him back in Peacemaker. Is that what happened?
I didn't know James was doing it. Nobody knew. James had like quarantine, downtime, lockdown,
And he just started writing it?
He wrote 8 episodes in 8 weeks. Just to write. And then he went to Warner Brothers and said, hey, I had this idea for the spinoff for TV. And of course they were like, yes, okay, we'll take it. Let's do it. We'll do the 8 episodes. And while they were figuring all that out, I guess he was probably fine tuning it. And it wasn't until October of 2020 that he called me. He's like, I didn't want to get your hopes up, but he's like, but we're going to do a spinoff of Suicide Squad. So your agents will probably be getting a call soon. I was like, what?
But you didn't know how big it was going to be, right?
I knew it would be bigger. He's like, you're going to be a series regular in it. And I was like,
did you shit your pants?
For so many reasons. Yeah. One of just like flattered that he would do this for me. 2, there's a global pandemic. Nobody's working at this point. It's still the first year of the pandemic. So I was happy to have work. I'd been living out of a suitcase, and, I didn't find a place to live once I got back from shooting Suicide Squad because the pandemic started. So I was like living on friends' couches. So I was like, oh my God.
Well, you also had a really rough year. You lost your mom.
My mom died 2 months into the pandemic.
2 months in the pandemic, and you were very close with her. That was incredibly rough.
Yeah. And not COVID. She died of leukemia. Like, she was diagnosed just before the pandemic.
So she went fast.
2 months.
2 months after she was diagnosed.
2.5 months.
How fucking shocked and like.
Didn't even hit me that could be a thing. But yeah.
I mean, how did you deal with that? Because you were alone during the pandemic. You're alone. You lose your mom.
I get back. We literally wrapped Suicide Squad in Panama end of February. I had 2 weeks of visiting my mom in the hospital every day while she was doing chemo. And then the lockdown happened, and the hospital was like, you can't come and visit her anymore.
Jeez.
And I was like, what am I supposed to do? I was going to be using all that time to find a place to live, but my mom got cancer. So I had nowhere to live. I called my friend Dave out in Joshua Tree, who's got like a small cabin, basically. He's like, yeah, you can stay here. And so I was isolated in the middle of the desert, calling my mom every day on the phone and listening to her deteriorate and get more and more confused. She got to a point where she was just like, I think they call it chemo brain, where she's just like,
not making sense.
It's almost like dementia. And the saddest part of all of it was she's like, how come you're not visiting me? And I was just like,
fuck.
I was like, Mom, there's a pandemic. They won't let me into the hospital. And she'd snap out of it and she'd be like, oh my God. She's like, that's right. Yeah, I forgot.
Right.
2 minutes later, same phone call. Why aren't you visiting me?
Yeah.
So the hardest part of all that was knowing that she passed away alone in the hospital, and be confused as to why she was alone and her family. So that killed me for like a year.
Yeah.
You know? And then 2 months later, my friend Lynn died, much younger, not much older than me. And Lynn, who was talking me through, FaceTiming me every day after my mom died, talking me through it. Then Lynn dies, and they find out she died of the same thing that killed my mom. Like, she was just undiagnosed. Lynn was dating Mark Maron, and they were living together during the pandemic. And then she got up one morning, collapsed. They took her away to the hospital. That night she was dead. And it was leukemia.
I remember that.
And it was just like another, like, just knife.
Dagger,
and I was just like, so the first half of 2020, all of 2020 was fucking horrible. And then James calls me in October and was like, we're doing Peacemaker. And I was like,
and you were rock bottom at this point. At this point, this is the lowest you've been since you can remember.
This is the worst year of my life, 2020. Mm-hmm. And then James like completely pulls me out of like a fucking pit. And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, when are we doing it? And he's like, in 3 months.
Wow.
And I was just like, good, get me the fuck out of here. And that was 7 months of getting to hang out with James and Jen and Cena. And
a lot of work.
Yeah.
Pretty exhausting.
At times, but it's an ensemble. So, and they would block shoot episodes. So there'd be like 2 weeks where they're doing all this stuff at a prison, and I'm in none of those scenes. So it'd be like just driving around British Columbia taking photos.
Right. Yeah. You could look on his Instagram at a lot of those photos that are still there.
At Steve Agee.
I watched the first 4. How many have aired at this point? Well, I don't know, but
6.
They will have all aired by this point.
Yes,
yeah.
6 just
when
dropped.
this airs.
Yep.
I was so happy to see how good you were.
Oh, thanks, man.
Because, your friends, you work with your friends, and I always think, oh, Steve's hilarious. I love being around Steve. Yeah. Steve's a great guy. I love him.
Steve's a character actor. I only see him one line at a time usually.
And now I see you, and it's like you are going toe-to-toe. There's some scenes with you and Cena. I almost said Joe Spina, but Cena.
Let's just start calling Cena or Spina Cena.
Spina. It's called Cena. And
Joe Cena.
But seeing you in these scenes, it's just like, and it's not one-dimensional. It's like you could see this character's kind of hurt at times.
Yeah.
Physically, has asthma, falling against the wall, and being abused and like getting emotional, getting hurt. His feelings hurt because Cena's throwing shit at him. Peacemaker's making fun of him. His beard being dyed.
Yeah. Wait till the finale, dude.
Don't say anything.
No, I'm not saying anything, but Like there's just a full arc. Like it's a great character. I'm so lucky. I owe James a lot.
But you nailed it.
Thanks, man.
You nailed it, and it's
Thanks.
just it's so fitting.
Thanks.
Sometimes, like, you know, there's so many great actors around, but it takes that right role for people to go, oh, you know what I mean? To realize how good they are.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you're only as good as the writing. You're only as good as the product.
It's also a character that I relate to, a guy who's, you know, can be the butt of people's jokes and is just like, doesn't want to go outside of his comfort zone. I'm very comfortable at home at the computer, like Economos is at his computer. That's where he's doing his best. But, you know, I long to go out and be adventurous, and, you know, Economos gets to go out and kill things and people and shoot.
Do you know my favorite moment? It's one of my favorite moments, and it's such a nuanced little thing. It's the first time you kill someone, or you think you killed someone.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
And you hit him with this pipe.
Yeah.
And then you
repeatedly.
And then you, the first time, but you kind of run away a little bit because you're a little scared.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking he might come back and kick your ass.
He beat the shit out of Cena.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, he could annihilate
me. And then you keep beating him and you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just so excited about this, and you just really kicked ass.
John Economos, motherfucker.
John Economos, motherfucker.
Yeah.
This is these are some questions. This is called Shit Talking with Steve Agee. These are my patrons.
Oh, okay.
Lovely patrons who help the podcast in so many ways.
Great.
Patreon.com/inside of you if you want to help the podcast.
Are these insiders? Is that what you call them?
I call them patrons.
Okay.
I could call them insiders.
Why haven't you?
I'm going to write that down.
Hey, thanks for listening, insiders. We got a new episode.
Leanne, what is your dream role or project next to Peacemaker?
I mean, it literally is what I'm doing right now. I can't imagine. I would love to do a Western.
Can you do a country accent? A little Southern?
Well, shit, man. I think I could fucking do it, you know? I think I fucking...
You could do it.
I'll
just
shoot some motherfucker.
I'll shoot some motherfucker.
I would love to do a Western. I'd love to do a war movie. The thing is, now I'm in my 50s now. I'd have to be like a colonel or like... I couldn't be like Saving Private Ryan like a young recruit.
That's all right. Colonels could be cool.
But I'd love to do a war movie.
Emily asks, what was your favorite outside Dave moment from New Girl?
Probably actually my Outside Dave's second episode, because usually Outside Dave is like he's the button at the end of a scene. I would never work for more than 2 hours on an episode of that show. But there was one episode where I'm in the whole episode, and it was directed by Lynn, my friend Lynn, who is my friend who passed away last year. That's when I met Lynn Shelton. That was my favorite Outside Dave because it was a big part. He was supposed to just be one episode, and they liked him and they brought him back. And this was his first time back as a recurring character.
Awesome. Dana S., when you bombed on stage for the first time,
she was there.
What?
How does she know?
What did you do? Were you prepared for the bomb?
Nope. This is great because I had done a show. We were doing Sarah Silverman's show. Sarah Silverman's program. And she, because of the show, she would do a lot of college gigs, you know, like pretty big, like theater college gigs. We did a show in Stanford, and I would go and open. My first time opening for her was in Stanford, and she was like, "You want to come open for me?" And I was like, "She goes, you have to do 20 minutes." And I go, I can do 5 minutes. And she's like, just go out and fuck around. Oh, she goes, "No, you have all these dumb little short films that you make at home." She's like, "Put them on a DVD, and you come out and introduce them and talk about them, and that'll be 20 minutes." I was like, "Oh yeah, okay." So we go to Stanford, and we're walking into a 2,000-seat theater.
Ooh.
I am immediately have diarrhea. I'm so terrified.
Yeah. I've had diarrhea from that.
And the house manager is like showing us back to the green room, and I go, "Who would I give this DVD to show some stuff?" And they go, "Oh, we don't have a DVD player." And Sarah just starts laughing, and she's like, "You better think of some shit to say." And I was just like, so we go and we're like there 2 hours early, and Sarah's just on her phone and on her computer and
Not
talking to
worried
people.
at all.
And I am sitting in the corner like going, what's funny? What can I talk about? And
what?
And I go out on stage in front of 2,000 people. I don't bomb. I go out and I start just riffing, like making fun. There's nuns sitting in the front row. I start talking about them. Everyone is dying because I'm on TV and they've seen me on Sarah's show. Like, yeah, it's the guy from Sarah. So they're laughing. Anything I say is hilarious.
And you don't think you're that funny.
No, and I'm like super cocky. I can't go to sleep that night. I was on such a high. The next night, I have a show at the Improv here on Melrose. And I'm like, this is going to be fucking easy. I go, that was 2,000 people. Improv, what, 200 people maybe? I go in there, walk out on stage, say the exact same thing. I wish I could remember what it was that I did up at Sarah's show. Silence. Silence. Luckily, no one was heckling, but it was silence. I go, they must not watch the show. I'll go on. And I say the next joke or whatever. Fucking silence. Boom. Flop sweat. I am now, just like that, covered in sweat. I'm like short of breath.
Do they know this?
I don't know.
Do they know you're struggling?
They probably don't. They could probably see me sweating, but I probably don't look scared. But I sped through what the night before I did in 20 minutes. I sped through it in like maybe 7 minutes, and I was off. I was off the stage, and I was like, wow, that was the worst thing I've ever done.
Did you never want to go on stage again?
I didn't for a long time. I was like, oh, I need to write more. I can't do this. I'm not Robin Williams.
It's terrifying.
You
really have to work at it.
Yeah.
It is absolutely terrifying. Even like when you're doing really well and then you say a joke and then it doesn't land, even one joke after you're killing it
can just throw you off.
Yeah. And doing 20 minutes, 25, I've done 25 minutes before, and I only had done it for like, I can't explain it. It is terrifying. I always feel like I'm not kidding. Not to be graphic, but I take like 10 shits before I go on.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, when will this go away? And Swartzen's like, never. You'll shit forever.
I did a tour with Tig Notaro, and it was like Tig and Martha Kelly from Baskets, and we were just driving around up the West Coast, to Washington and down. We were just doing all sorts of shows. But we were doing shows that we booked on MySpace, and we were doing shows at people's houses. People would hit us up, and we'd come to their house, pass around a bucket for tips.
And they pay you pretty
well? Gas money. Some of them paid. We made enough to get to the next gig.
Right.
And we coined a term, diarrhea arrival, which is you drive up to a house and you see the conditions that you're going to be performing with, and you immediately just have diarrhea because you're like, this is going to be fucking horrible. So diarrhea arrival was born.
Diarrhea arrival.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I'm just so happy that, things took off for you, because it's there's so many talented people there. There's so many talented people out there, and you're like, when are they going to get their shot? I just had lunch with Jason Alexander today, name drop.
Yeah.
And he was just talking about that. He's like, there's so many. I mean, it's really a lucky thing, because he's like a dime a dozen for people that are talented.
Yeah.
But to have that moment,
Well, this is my first series regular since Sarah's show ended in 2010. I'm 52. I should have given up a long time.
Yeah. I mean, but you have been working.
I have been working. There's been lean times, but I've made a living as an actor.
Do you think you would have kept going even if you didn't get the offer this show?
Yeah.
You would have kept going?
Yeah.
Even during the pandemic, all this shit happening, you think you still would have risen to the occasion?
Yeah.
Rose to the occasion? Risen to the occasion? Risen to the occasion?
I rose.
Would you rose to the creations?
Rose to the Enbaum.
Rosenbaum.
Ow.
This was a real treat for me.
Me too, man.
Did you have fun?
I had a blast.
This is one of the first things. I really didn't know what I was going to talk about, but I knew you'd come.
Oh, there would never be dead air between us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell the audience what you recently sent me a picture of.
I don't remember what I said.
It came out of your penis. I'll give you a hint.
Oh, My kidney stone or the stent?
What was that? Explain what a stent is.
So
It looked like a
I've
string
had
to
kidney
me.
stones off and on since, my 30s. And but I've passed all of them. No problem. I really, just on my own, drinking water. When I know I have one, I chug water and it flushes it out. I had one that was so large 2 years ago that they had to do surgery to get it out. They're like, we're going to go through your penis with a camera and laser. We will find it, pinpoint it, and break it up with the laser. And then we pull it out with this little basket. And then we leave a stent in your ureter. The ureter is the tube. Oh, there it is.
Can you see that?
That's the stent. It's the size of an iPhone charging cable. That was inside of my body.
I don't know if you can see it.
And they leave it in your ureter because put it up on the Patreon.
Somebody can zoom.
Look
in
how
on it.
horrified I look.
You could send it to Jason for B-roll.
That's 2.5 feet long, curly cues on the end to keep it from falling out.
And they numb your penis so it didn't hurt when they took it out.
No, it just feels awkward. But that goes in so your ureter doesn't swell shut from the trauma of the surgery and keep you from being able to pee.
They say passing a kidney stone is equivalent to maybe delivering a child. Or
Not for me.
No? It wasn't bad for you.
I have a high pain threshold. When I get a kidney stone, when it starts to pass, oftentimes I'll drive to the hospital in case it gets bad. But I can usually just stay in the parking lot and just kind of walk it off, chug water. But I want to be near the emergency room.
Just in case it's a bad one.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, who makes you laugh harder than anybody else on set? Who's the one that can break you?
Cena.
Cena can break you?
Yeah.
He's broken you before.
Yeah. Freddie does too. Freddie plays Vigilante. Also James. James will
Throw shit
we
out
get
at
to
you.
points where he starts throwing out alternative lines, alt lines. And some of the stuff is so funny I can't get through it the first time because I'm hearing it for the first time. I haven't prepared.
Who's the most professional on the set?
Jen is really professional, and so, Jen, Danielle, and Shakwudi, who plays Myrn, the three of them are like
Just pros.
flawless. Yeah.
You love it. You enjoy it.
Oh,
Every bit
it
of
makes you better. You've worked with people like you've worked with Walken, and
Oh, yeah.
it makes you better.
It always makes you better.
Yeah.
What a treat. Well, I hope you get many more seasons to come. You deserve it.
Fingers crossed.
I love you.
Love you too, man.
I really
thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming over. You've been doing a lot of press for Peacemaker, guys. Make sure you watch the Peacemaker. It's on HBO Max. Follow Steve Agee. He's a hilarious guy. You're gonna love it. If you haven't seen this, you're gonna love
Please,
John
Economos.
Honestly, hilarious. Just wait a couple episodes in until he starts getting really fiery and barking back at Cena's character.
That's right.
Peacemaker.
That's right. We all have our breaking point.
We all have our. What was that from?
I don't know.
We all have our breaking point. Was that Point Break?
No,
It wasn't. Was it?
definitely not.
All right. Thanks for allowing me to be inside of you today.
Thanks,
buddy.
Mike.
You liked this episode.
I did. He was a good guy.
Yeah.
And he's
He just tells it how it is. You can just tell that this guy's been through a lot, and he just toughs it out. And is that the right word? Toughs it out.
a lot of different chapters in his life.
A lot of
That was
different
interesting.
chapters.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, he's in his 50s now,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And boom, he gets a role that finally makes people go, whoa, hey, that guy.
Yeah.
It's amazing how one role can change your life, and I think Peacemaker really did.
Yeah.
And I hope it continues for him. So, Steve, thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for divulging so much information to Ryan and I. If you really like the podcast, I urge you to continue listening. I think you'll enjoy other guests. Go on YouTube, leave a review on Apple, Spotify. Also, I will be at I'll be in St. Louis at a con May 13th weekend. We're doing the Smallville Nights in St. Louis with Tom Welling, which is a two-man show. We improvise and we read scripts from Smallville. And so I'm going to be there. And then I go to Liverpool on for the 21st, that weekend of May. And then June 10th and 11th, I'll be in Metropolis, Illinois. And then the 16th or 17th, I'll be off to Australia, Supernova. So join me at one of these places, at least for the love of God. Come on. You could do it. Meet up with me. Also, the Inside You online store is available for merch, and sunspin.com for band merch, and Zooming Me, and there's Cameo, there's all that stuff. I appreciate you, but most importantly, thank you, all my patrons. Join Patreon. It's a way to get back to the podcast. If you're digging it, go to patreon.com/insideofyou, become a patron. These are the top tier patrons that I read every episode because they're so supportive and they give a little bit extra to the show, which really freaking helps, Ryan.
Helps me.
Yeah. Helps me.
Helps everybody.
Yeah. Happy birthday again, man.
Thank you.
34 years old.
Yep.
Got a lot of years left ahead of you, man. A lot of good years. I could feel it. You're going to have some really good years coming up.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate
feel
it.
that. I feel it. Yeah, I absolutely feel it for you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just keep living. LIVIN.
Gee.
I'm going to the beach this weekend if you want to join. We're going Saturday, a group of us.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you're around,
All right.
let me know. Here are the top tier patrons. I'll read them off. Nancy D, Leah S, Sarah V, Little Lisa, Yukiko, Jill E, Brian
H.
Nico P, Robert B, Jason W, Kristen K, Allison
L.
Raj C, Joshua D, CJ P, Jennifer N, Stacy L, Jen S, Jamal F, Janelle B, Kimberly
E.
Correct. Mike E, Eldon Supremo, 99 more, Ramira, Santiago M, Chad W, Leanne P, Janine R, Maya P, Maddie S, Belinda N, Chris H, Dave H, Spider-Man Chase, Sheila,
G.
Brad,
D.
Ray,
H.
Tabitha,
T.
damn boy, Tom N, Liliana A, Talia M, Betsy D, Chad L, Rochelle, Marion, Meg K, Trav L, Dan N, Big Stevie,
W.
correct, Angel M, Rhiannon C, Corey Key, K, Key, Super Sam, Dev,
Nexon.
correct, Michelle A, Jeremy C, Andy T, give yourself some kudos, Cody R, Gavinator, David C, John B, Brandy D,
Vor.
Camille S, The,
C.
Joey M, Willie F, David H, Adelaide N, Omar L, Omar I, Lena N, Design OTG, Eugene and Leah, Chris P, Nikki G, Corey, Nicole, Patricia, Heather L, Jake B, James B, Bobette, Abel F, Joshua B, Tony G, Megan T, Mel S, Orlando C, John B, Caroline R, Rob E, Paul C, Christine S, Sarah S, Eric H, Spring, and Jennifer R. Those are the top tier patrons. They give back quite a bit to the show, and they top tiers receive boxes from me of merch and a little note every couple of months. And there's other tiers that you can join if you just want to support the podcast. So patreon.com/insideofyou. Got a great episode coming up next week, so I hope you guys will stick around. Get anything going on, Ryan? You want to talk about?
Just the birthday? That's kind of it, man. Just been thinking about aging in life.
Wait till you get to be 50, buddy.
Oh, can't wait.
You know what it is? It's like, here's my way of kind of rationalizing and sort of just putting things into perspective. When you're 50, you think, why was I worried about getting old when I was 40? When you're 60, I'm going to be like, God, why don't I just enjoy my 50s?
Yeah.
I was still young. You just got to enjoy it. It all comes down to just being present and just being like, hey, you're 34 right now. You're not even mid 30s. You're below the mid. So
it's the end of being marketed towards as a young person. It's the 18 to 34 demographic.
yeah,
It ends here.
I'm like a parent. I'm like,
You are
considered
also a parent with two P's. A parent.
Did I do that? No. Oh, I thought I did.
I was trying to do a homonym.
A homonym?
Homonym?
What's a homonym?
It's when two words look the same but sound the same but look different.
Look the same but sound
As in
different. Like
A space parent, like you're an A parent, and you're also a parent. You're also
yeah,
APP.
yeah, like principal.
Yeah.
Principal. The
Exactly.
principal at the school.
Yes.
Principal.
Yeah.
Having principles.
Yeah. Is a homonym the right word?
Is it a homonym?
Let us know.
Let us know.
Anyway.
Guys, thank you for making us your choice for podcasts. We may not have, every week you might not know a guest, but I think you're going to learn something and you'll enjoy it. So we hope you stick around. Thank you very much. I am Michael Rosenbaum.
I'm Ryan Diaz.
From the Hollywood Hills in Hollywood, California.
Hollywood, California.
Give a little wave, Ryan. We love you and thank you. Be sure to be kind to yourself. Be good to yourself. Thank you for allowing me to be inside of each and every one of you. It's a real treat. And hopefully you keep coming back and I'll keep coming back. All right. Take care.